Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Thank you kindly for stopping by, and I'm grateful for that. I'm looking forward to hosting His Excellency Jacques Peterloo at Mindspeak this Saturday. We serve breakfast from 9:30 a.m. at the Intercontinental. Our program starts at 10 and we're done by about midday. When I was speaking to Jacques yesterday, I said to him, well, what are you going to speak about? Because he's such an authority on so many things. And he said, let me speak about the African Renaissance, 5 years of observing it up close and personal. So, good subject to get our teeth into, looking forward to it tremendously. Of course, Jacques was appointed the new Director General of the Directorate for Resources. Federal Council, this is an official announcement in December, has appointed Jacques Peterloo, currently Head of Mission in Nairobi, as Director General of the Directorate for Resources within the Federal Department of Foreign Affairs in Bern. The Directorate for Resources is responsible for securing and managing resources within the FDFA. Will assume his new post in the summer of 2015. Born in Zumikon, canton of Zurich in 1962, began working for the FDFA in 1988, currently head of mission in Nairobi, has held various management positions in the FDFA and the Federal Department of Defense, Civil Protection and Sports. In May 2007, he was appointed head of the Political Secretariat, which became a division of the Directorate of Political Affairs following the merger of the Center for International Security Policy and the Center for Analysis and Prospective Studies and Historical Unit. Very interesting gentleman, going to be a great guest. He has done it once before, but that was many years ago. I'll put up a photograph of him that I took on Tuesday night when we were having dinner. Mindspeak, as I said before, is held at the Intercontinental, and I'm grateful to them for their support. If you're interested for a little vignette, a video vignette of what is Mindspeak, there's a link from YouTube there. And as I said, we serve breakfast from 9:30 a.m. and also there are various links on the website and on Rich Wrap-Ups if you care to go and have a look at any previous guests. Holger tweeted, Bill Gross via Twitter, EU, ECB, IMF playing a circular Ponzi game, extending future loans to Greece to pay back old loans to themselves. Edward Harrison tweeted a history of protracted IMF arrears, and it makes an interesting visual. The Greek drachma plunge was previewed in History of Currency Crises. This is JP Morgan contemplating Greece's potential exit from the euro. JP Morgan Chase strategist John Normand tried to estimate what it would be worth by looking at changes to 7 foreign exchange regimes over the past 2 decades. The result is not pretty. Another blow for investors trying to guess how much they might recover of the 40 billion euros of outstanding Greek bonds, and for companies thinking about the business environment under an alternative currency. Among the changes Norman studied were the end of fixed or managed exchange rates following balance of payments crises in Mexico in 94, Thailand and Indonesia in 97, Russia in 98, Brazil in 1999. He also threw in Argentina's 2002 removal of its currency board. On average, crisis economies saw their currencies slide 55% against the dollar in the first year after the rupture, and 53% 2 years later. The biggest fall in the first year was Indonesia's 84% devaluation, and Russia won the prize over 2 years with a 78% plummet. Home thoughts. Layla, my middle daughter, is reading Othello for her A-level text. I've been trying to persuade her to read the original text, but she keeps skiving off and looking for easy cuts. And I said, you've got to read the thing. And I was reading it this morning. 2 quotes came to mind. This look of thine will hurl my soul from heaven. I never yet did hear that the bruised heart was pierced through the ear. I like this image that was tweeted by DIG Cron, Tecnologia, Unreal Engine for no solo sirva para juegos pueden. I can't pronounce it, but you'll see the image and you'll know why it was very attractive. RT News, thousands catch Jupiter, Venus forming the Star of Bethlehem. World Wildlife Fund, check out this beautiful camera trap image. A tiger deep in the snow in the Russian Far East. And also pick of the week, try to be a rainbow in someone's cloud. Maya Angelou. Political reflections. Iran nuclear talks have been extended by a week in the hope of making a deal. Khamenei tweeted an interesting tweet. I recognize our negotiators as trustworthy, committed, brave and faithful. And he posted this image, which I'm posting as well. Jérôme Cartillière, l'heure est venue. Obama annonce le rétablissement des relations diplomatiques avec Cuba. I just like the photograph, so that's why I borrowed that tweet. Jim Scuto says, quoting Obama, and I love this quote, "We don't have to be imprisoned by the past. When something isn't working, we can change." Hallelujah to that. And I tweeted yesterday, is Havana the aperitif and Tehran the main course? It was President Dwight D. Eisenhower who broke off diplomatic relations with Cuba in January 1961, just before leaving office. And that is snapping a losing sequence going back to 1961. And of course, the losing sequence with Iran goes back all the way to the toppling of the Peacock Throne by Ayatollah Khomeini. ISIS is not just on the Golan, they are in Egypt as well, near Rafah, near our border, Bibi Netanyahu. But, you know, a lot of people feel that they've been giving succor to ISIS, particularly on the Golan Heights. UN South Sudan sanctions seem to challenge unchecked impunity. The US-based crisis management group Enough project said Wednesday's UN Security Council sanctions against 6 military commanders from South Sudan are essential to combat what it called the unchecked impunity that has come to define South Sudan's political environment. 3 generals, 3 rebel commanders are now subject to a global travel ban and an asset freeze for their role in perpetuating that country's 19-month-old conflict. I'll put up a file photograph of SPLA soldiers standing in a vehicle in Juba on December the 20th, 2013. I've been up to Juba a few times and I wouldn't like to find myself on the wrong side of these gentlemen. ECB founder Otmar Issing, who really was and is a hardcore Buba member, says the idea of an irreversible euro was an illusion. IMF have put out a note, 9 key questions on Greece that they're answering. Questions are, what would the IMF like to see happen to resolve the situation? What happens to Greece because of the failure to make a repayment when due? Is there a grace period? Can a payment be postponed? How does the IMF work to resolve overdue payments? Are there penalties for a failure to repay? What does being in arrears to the IMF mean for Greece's other creditors? Is the IMF's ability to finance other members hurt by this non-payment? Will the IMF's shareholders suffer losses if Greece does not repay? Those answers are on the IMF's website. You can find it through rich wrap-ups. And of course, if you haven't seen Christine Lagarde's performance appearance at Mindspeak, you should. That link is on Rich Wrap-Ups as well. And she said so many things. Very bright, intelligent woman. I know she's getting a tough press here. But when Hannah gave her roses and said, I want to be just like you, Lagarde said, work hard and you can be anything you want to be. She's probably telling that to Tsipras as well. Put up a photograph of Christine Lagarde, myself and Hannah on the 6th of January 2014. Very, very compelling lady in my view. Euro just below 110.50 now. Dollar index above 96.18. Japanese yen 123.58. Swissy 0.9464 when I checked. The pound at 155.89. Australian dollar is at 76.08. India rupee 63.555. South Korean won 11.2502. Brazilian real 314.89. Egyptian pound 763.18. And the South African rand when I looked last 12.29.64. I'll put up a 3-month chart of the dollar index. I think there is an outside chance this index, which is at 96, above 96, gets as high as 110 by the end of the year. Euro dollar, as I said, we've traded lower. We're now at 110.55. I think once Jordan stops, Thomas Jordan of the Swiss National Bank, the euro will tank. Nestle CEO in a video on Fortune magazine says we want to add 30,000 jobs in 2 years. Interesting video interview. Put up a photograph of a Nestle cup of coffee that I took. Coming to the commodity markets, gold last trading 11.65. As I've said all year, it's going down. Crude oil $57.30, getting a bit of a lift in pre-market trading. I think Iran and Iranian deal sends it into a tailspin, in point of fact. Prices fell 5.9%. This is the global dairy trade auction overnight, taking the price index to the lowest point since August 2009. Worried New Zealand farmers are beyond words after another big fall in dairy prices, with the market now at its lowest point in almost 6 years. Analysts slashed forecast payouts for New Zealand farmers after milk prices fell for the 8th time in a row at Fonterra's auction. The average sale price was $2,276 a tonne, down from $2,409 a tonne at the previous fortnightly auction. The crucial export category of whole milk powder took the hardest fall, down 10.8%, getting hammered. Federated Farmers Dairy Industry Group Vice Chairman Chris Lewis said he had expected prices to bottom out 2 months ago. Now we're just in uncharted territory. It's beyond words. Have a look at the New Zealand dollar. I'll put up a 1-year chart and it's in free fall largely because of this backdrop. Emerging markets, Holger again troubled. China sees red despite lots being done to support a flagging stock market. Regulators are easing margin rules, but it's now a bear market. Coming to Sub-Saharan Africa, Jeune Afrique Business tweeted President Obama signing the AGOA Treaty. I'll post that photograph up. I said on a CNBC interview that I felt the Greece crisis will negatively impact African currencies like the rand and the Kenyan shilling. I said there is an enormous correlation and a high spillover risk. We've seen the rand sell off, and the shilling is actually weaker. The worry is that this infection starts to spread and infects other emerging markets and high-yielding assets. And I think that correlation is happening right now. I wrote about the Sub-Saharan African currency bloodbath on the 8th of June, and I said then I believe the dollar has now achieved escape velocity. Therefore, in my view, the trend is your friend and there's going to be more blood in the water. Very interesting article in Quartz. The Sidis meet the fast disappearing community of Indians and Pakistanis of African origin. When people think of Africans in Indian history, Malik Ambar tends to be the first name to come to mind. Brought to Ahmednagar as a warrior slave in the 16th century, he rose to the general of the Deccan Sultanate's army and eventually its regent. Yes, yet Ambar was only the most successful of thousands of Africans brought to India by Arab and Portuguese slavers across the Arabian Sea. Thousands of others came as mercenaries and merchants. Today, the Sidis, as people of African origin living in India for centuries call themselves, are a fast disappearing community. Separated by appearance, if not by culture, they are largely misunderstood. British photographer Luke Duggleby is attempting to change that. In the ambitious Sidi project, Duggleby documents the lives of the community, not just in India, but also in Pakistan. Duggleby had spent 6 months in Tanzania. Many of my first experiences of travel and photography were in various parts of Africa. My life then took a turn east, and I ended up in Asia, where I've been based ever since. I've always had a deep fascination for both continents, so when I heard about the CD, I became slightly obsessed and began researching more and more about the topic. It's a very interesting subject. And the other fellow is a fellow who wrote Travels with Tangerine. He's got a fantastic documentary about the CDs. He follows in the footpath of Ibn Battuta and goes to India, and he discovers this community as well. I'll put up 2 photographs. A CD man, as they are known in India, becomes possessed by the spirit of Baba Gaur and blindly enters the dance floor. And another photograph of a groom waiting for his bride to enter the main wedding hall at a Hindu CD wedding in the village of Itkundi. Quartz Africa again tweeted Facebook Africa ARPU, and obviously it's going to be much less than any other continent, which it is. Facebook's first quarter earnings for 2015 show Africa and South America generate revenue of just 80 cents per user. Facebook pulls in more than 10 times that amount per user in North America. Well, Africa's a low base effect, we know about that. The challenge for Facebook in Africa is not finding users, but rather to develop an advertising model that suits the African context. The challenges here include slow mobile connections, high costs of data that may deter users from viewing ads and watching more video, one of Facebook's fastest growing features. Facebook has already started experimenting with strategies to enable advertisers to reach users with low bandwidth connections. The use of targeted ads on feature calls, missed calls feature, which gives users the option to click on ads to get a return call from advertisers without using airtime or data. This has been piloted in India. Africa's mobile penetration is growing, but mobile ad spend hasn't caught up yet. There's a lot of room to experiment more with mobile ads on the continent. I think most advertisers still view mobile ads as an add-on to bigger advertising campaigns for brands instead of leading with them. South African all-share firmed 0.16% yesterday. It's up 4.255% year-to-date. It's been pretty firm, actually. Dollar Rand, as I said, 12.29 when I took a look at it last. Eleni Giokos tweeted, meanwhile in Johannesburg, Ebony Park, long queues at Nedbank ATMs. And I thought to myself, I wonder how Nedbank are going to intercept that particular tweet. Death toll in North Sinai. Militant attacks rises to 50. Then I saw some figures considerably higher than that. IS, or whatever nomenclatura you prefer to give them, have taken and escalated things to a whole new normal. You have to accept that. Daragi, moment of impact video shows jihadi fighters' deadly attack on checkpoint in Sinai. New York Times World, at the funeral of the prosecutor who was killed earlier in the week, Egyptian President Sisi vows faster trials and sentencing in terror cases. Amnesty had called the killing of the Egyptian public prosecutor a despicable, cowardly and cold-blooded act of murder, which it was. An interesting Middle East eye says this: Sisi has yet to make his biggest mistake, carry out the death sentence on Mohammed Morsi. And that would be a diabolical decision if he makes that, I'm afraid. I don't agree with Morsi, but I think putting him to death, they probably won't put him to the sword. Putting him to death is not a good idea. The Egyptian stock market is down 6.217% this year, softening up of late, fell 1.65% in its immediately preceding session. President Buhari, I like this photograph that they tweeted on June the 22nd. Muhammad Buhari resumed duty at Aso Rock. However, he has yet to appoint his cabinet. And Bloomberg is saying he's gone from champion of change to Baba Go Slow. The decision to delay cabinet appointments is a red rag to the bears, in my view. The Naira tumbled on the parallel market yesterday. Currency declined to 230 per dollar from 226. Had traded at 215 last week before the new restrictions, so it's coming under pressure. Foreign currency reserves have declined 16% this year to $29 billion. Central Bank, of course, listed 41 items, including rice, private jets, foreign securities, and Indian incense, which couldn't be funded in the interbank foreign currency market. And a fellow saying this ban is putting pressure on Naira on the streets. 30th of March, I said I expected a devaluation in the Naira to at least 250 versus the dollar, whosoever wins the election. I think Buhari is delaying the inevitable, and it's a poor decision. Nigerian all shares down 5.176%, had a bad session yesterday, down 1.77%. Ghana showing signs of improvement, says the IMF. Economic growth in 2015 is expected to remain broadly as expected, around 3.5%, with low cocoa and gold production but increased hydrocarbon production. The success, this is the IMF, of the program critically hinges on continued spending moderation, in particular the wage bill, with stricter control of the payroll being put in place, and renewed efforts to improve revenue collection. The Ghana Stock Exchange is plus 4.024% year to date, but bear in mind you've taken a huge hammering on the currency. Zambia's credit rating has been cut by S&P on widening budget deficit. Zambia's credit rating was cut, warned of a rapidly widening budget gap, and said elections may prevent the government from addressing it. I think they're correct. Lowered the rating to B, 5 levels below investment grade. Zambia's fiscal position is markedly and negatively deviating from our previous expectations. Budget gap is set to reach 10% of economic output this year on a cash basis, and 14% when debt payments are included, S&P said. Moving to Kenya, Kenya's economic growth rose to 4.9% in the first quarter of the year, compared with a revised 4.7% during the same period a year ago. All the sectors of the economy recorded positive growth of varying magnitudes, except the hotels and restaurants, whose growth contracted. But we know that. Data shows that poor performance in manufacturing and tourism dragged growth. Manufacturing sector activity slowed down to 3.5%, compared to 6.4% in a similar period last year. Construction sector was the standout. Infrastructure projects such as roads, rails, and real estate grew at the highest rate of 11.3%, mainly helped by the ongoing construction of the SGR. On a sequential basis, GDP has declined 4 quarters on quarter. Morgan Stanley says Kenya is the biggest bond loser, but it isn't scaring Morgan Stanley. Kenya's domestic bonds lost more money for dollar investors than any other emerging market debt last quarter. Yet for Morgan Stanley, now is the moment to put cash into Kenya. An index of Kenyan notes fell 6.9% in the 3 months through June 30, the most among 31 developing nations tracked by Bloomberg. Shilling weakened 7% against the dollar in the same period, its 5th straight quarterly drop and longest run of losses since September 1999. Morgan Stanley is saying there's no better time to be in Kenya than now. Yield on shilling debt due January 2024 rose 69 basis points last quarter to a record 12.9%. Kenya shilling, last time I looked, was around the 99.30 level. The Nairobi All Share is up 0.196% year to date, but fell 0.73% yesterday, giving up 88.88% of its previous session's rally, when it rallied very sharply on heavy volume. NSE 20 is down 4.972%, but has rallied 113.76 points since closing at a 2015 low on June the 10th. It, however, fell 0.97% yesterday. Standard Chartered has asked its parent firm to split its stock. That's a bullish development for the stock. It's trading higher. There's also a link for Standard Chartered's share price data, results, etc. Trades on a trading PE of 8.943. Safaricom remains a bull outlier at the bourse and is up 17.43% year to date, and basically held up the Nairobi All Share Index. Equity Group has traded 4.38% of its equity over 2 sessions. That is a plain material event. The share data has also on Rich Wrap-Ups. If you go to have a look, Nation Media has bounced 11.73% this week, but from a deeply oversold position, it remains down 25.37% year to date. Tea prices hit a new high at the Mombasa weekly auction, with a kilogram of made-up tea up 54.8% compared to January as demand rises. That also informs us of why we've seen a better performance amongst the tea counters. Nairobi News tweeted, "Wow, Priestley CBK boss says no to posh Tiger house and sleek cars." Great message he's sending. The stock market yesterday, as I said, the Nairobi All Share gave up 88.88% of its previous session's rally, retreated 0.72%. NSE 20 got slammed lower, 47.65 points. The next day reversal after the previous session's very bullish move is not a constructive signal, I'm afraid. Williamson Tea traded down 11.59% to 366 as the stock went ex-dividend. Dividends were 40 shillings. Correction was about the same amount. Safaricom, a bright spot in a very soft market, firmed 0.3% to close at 16.50. Remains a bull outlier. Joe Muganda took over as Nation Media CEO. As I said, Nation Media has bounced 11.73% this week in anticipation of that announcement. TPS Serena up 2.142%. I was speaking with Mahmood and he said many things, and he spoke of still difficult markets. Equity Group reversed its 2.7% gain to close 3.16% lower at 46. We've seen a big chunk of shares trade. That's Helios for you. News of the appointment of Ms. Jane Karuku as the new Kenya Breweries MD effective July the 6th was not able to lift the share price, which retreated 1.97%. Now, if you want to follow the stock market in real time, you just got to register on rich.co.ke, get a password, it's free, and then go to Rich Live. And then don't forget, I hope to see you on Saturday at Mindspeak. We're looking forward to that. Once again, thank you.